I do not see organizations, even when they do say they have strong values in inclusivity, diversity. You tell me now if you've ever been through an interview process where they've asked you the question of how you would like to be interviewed to showcase your abilities and skills in the best light possible.
That's a great question.
And I go back to the design director at Farfetch because he told me something. He was saying anybody we interview should be perfect for this role because we've done our due diligence of checking everything before getting to interview stage. Interviews are very expensive for companies, right? You're talking
Yeah,
about 4 or 5 people taking a couple of hours out. That's an expensive
yeah,
thing to do. So when you're interviewing someone, they should already be successful, right? And now this interview is to really unearth how successful they can actually be here and whether it's a good culture fit. I want to see organizations changing the way that their hiring practices. So if you imagine you're going for your, say, second round interview, you've been through the recruitment interview, everyone's kind of happy. You've got an interview with a head of design, a head of product, and one other person, for example. I want to see the recruiter, the talent person coming to me and going, okay, we have a package of 5 different interview types. Which one do you think is best to showcase your
yeah.
abilities in the best light? Person A might go, do you know what? I want to spend 2 weeks on a task and I'd love to present it to you. Next person might say, I actually love just getting into a conversation and spending an hour with you and I can talk to you about everything I've done. The
Yeah,
next person might say, whatever it is. So you've got these package, choose your own adventure of hiring practices. I also want options where, if you think of the single parent who's trying to take their child to school in certain times and is also trying to juggle a job, how are we going to support that person? For a single parent, it might be the only time I can do is 2 o'clock before the school run. And instead, I don't really see that. I see options of times, but I don't see decisions from organizations to say, we've understood that everybody that's hiring for or wanting to be hired for our roles and going through interviews are different. They have a diverse set of skills. So let's give them options.
every hiring process that I've either done or have been a part of have always been almost like a mono culture approach.
And it's designed for the organization. It's designed for you as a hiring manager and you as a hiring company,
Mm.
not designed for the candidate to showcase themselves in the best possible light.
Great way of putting it. So let me just play that back. So you're designing for the candidate, not for the organization. A process which helps bring out the best in them.
Yeah.
That's when we talk about inclusivity. Like that's a very good example of inclusive hiring practices. Is that what you're basically?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look, I mean, and I'm, I guess, fortunate in that I run my own consultancy now and I do proposals. And that's the way that I find clients and work with clients. I know, even though I've held a number of, I believe, really great positions and have grown my career up through the various levels, I am terrible at interviews. I'm really not great at them, particularly in a remote world. If I can meet someone in person, I'm pretty good.
can you
In
tell
remote
me about a terrible interview that you've had?
I had one relatively recently, and the only reason I went for it was because it was parental leave cover, and I was like, it's a short stint, so that's good for me as a business. And it was very, very specific to the type of work that I do now. So I went in there honestly full of confidence. I've done this position before multiple times, and the questions were all competency based questions, right?
Mm.
Can you tell me about a time when X, Y, Z? I'm terrible at them because I think there's a couple of reasons. One of them is I have had quite a varied career. So immediately I'm trying to think across 20 years of time and go, which of these things I've done aligns with the question you're asking? I end up mashing them all together. So it ends up being incredibly theoretical and it sounds like it's made up. It just
Yeah.
never comes across as
So,
particularly
so in that
authentic.
instance, you're being evaluated about your ability to um, select the best story
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
in 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 a sort of 3 or 4 second pause
Yeah.
that perfectly matches what they say.
Yeah.
And when you think about design, like, do you ever need that skill?
This is the point, right? In any of the functions that we in the ones I'm particularly hiring for, but any in product development, I've never been in an organization where someone comes up and goes, Chris, you've got 10 seconds to tell me what you think the answer to this is. Never. I've
Yeah.
never experienced that. And again, going back to inclusive hiring practices, If they really want to stick with those questions, send it to me 2 days before. I will write down all my examples. I can even send them to you, then we can discuss them. We can go through them in as much detail as you want to go through. A bit like in a podcast, right? I've been on a podcast recently where they said we want a very clear example of where you think product ops showed value and impact. I was okay. I got these 5 examples, sent them to them. They picked one, and I said, okay, let's talk about that. We spent
Yeah.
an hour digging into it. That's a way better approach for me personally. For other people, they like to think very much on the fly and they've got very specific examples to give, and that works for them. For me, it really doesn't work.